Satsang 6. Interviews, Agape celebration in the Canaries. May 26, 2019. Last interview of Tenerife. I would like to remind you that this afternoon we have Bide. Oh, great. So for convenience, even if there is no direct to the transcribers, if you have questions, you write them down, it will be easier. And then, if there are oral questions, of course, they will be taken in the same way. That's it. That means to question, that means. I was saying, since you may not have all heard it, that since then, since the first I am you, all the people who really try to pronounce their names, like what we describe, it is absolutely magical, but what a humor once again. Vincent, do you have something to say to start the debates? Brother, actually, it's a question. Yes, go ahead. Will it always be to pronounce loudly, the name, or just put them in your mind? There you go. When you are in thought, when you pronounce the names, it is resonance, which induces the fire of the Sacred Heart, but the finalization of your resurrection, that is, to be reborn again, even in this body, that is, to become the Son of Man, passes through the word verb. The word/verb is the sound that comes out of your mouth, not the thought. There is an effect, and it comes back to what I sent you this morning, a sound engineer, who explained to me in what sound engineers conceive, what it is that white noise, white paradise for them, what it is the difference between harmonic sound and noise, is that the more you analyze the white paradise, the more you will take an individuality of sound that becomes music, which is our form, but which makes you lose the white noise. So, in terms of sound, what we call white noise is the grace frequency of the universe. It's all the frequencies at once, which shows you that you are not that specific place where the music is played, but that you are all the music. But this music, he explains the same thing in a process of those who know sound, with what we call Fourier series. Well, that's complicated, but we know perfectly well that white noise, the origin of white noise, is not a sinusoidal like any other electromagnetic frequency, but a square signal, that is, frequency, stop, frequency, stop. And he says, it is exactly what we have called in our jargon, the Metatronite cube, which contains the first breath of creation. So, when I tell you that there is a total coherence, whether we look at physics, astrophysics, or simply sound, we systematically find this component, sound, image, life, can only exist because it is supported by zero. It is in the zero that there are all the frequencies. That's what he explains. He is a sound engineer, like astrophysicists, like physicists, today, can only accept that. Because they demonstrated it, they put it into an equation, and that's exactly how it happens. So in their own jargon, for sound engineers, they call it a perspective and not a point of view, as Bide called it, because the perspective depends on where you look. And it's the same for what they call white noise. He made the diagrams for me, I sent them to you, where we see the sinusoidal, what we call grace frequency in astrophysics. It's the same for sound. Wherever you look in electromagnetism, whether it is the sound, the image, everything you can imagine, the very color, a color, as we know very well, it is the white light that is diffracted, that gives all the colors. So what those who oppose this cannot accept is that they are still in a localized perspective, their individual, what is called the ego, the idea of believing they are separated, which prevents them from seeing the truth. It is found in all aspects of physics, in all electromagnetic scales, even in cosmic rays, that is, what brings life is nothingness, which is found in Kabbalah, that is, the Ein Sefer, what is beyond light, and we all come from there. Nothing can exist or appear if it does not come from nothingness, and when you find nothingness, not only does the myth of individuality end, but you find all of it. So, it is a mathematical demonstration, that obviously, the ego and consciousness can never accept, but that the intellect has demonstrated, and that, not from today, it is since we know the sounds, that we know the composition of the image, the colors, and all that. So it's so evident, why we call them red noses, because they refuse the evidence. This evidence, which was nevertheless known intellectually, analyzed intellectually, could only be lived in itself if one accepted it. It's so clear. I have information from all sides. I'm not even talking about the testimonies that are coming in. I can't even publish them anymore, but even scientists are coming in today on my wall and confirm it to me. And, indeed, what is called the coronation, it refers directly to you for those who are interested in the texts, to Apocalypse 12, which is actually the birth of the prodigal son, or the return of the prodigal son, what is called the resurrection in biblical terms, as it has been called in the channelings, is only the truth, that is, whatever music you hear, whatever image you see, whatever color you perceive, it is only a perspective related to a location. The problem for consciousness, which is a disease, is that it is sure to be this perspective, and no other. This is separation, and the end of separation is the living experience that this perspective does not exist. And that's what they had for us, what Baidu told us. We are not this character, we are not a story, we are the whole of creation. And the paradox is that it is demonstrated intellectually by Fourier series, whether in phonology, in the image, in the analysis of all electromagnetic spectra, and which is refused by consciousness. That is what is wonderful. Not all spiritualists can accept that, because they are pursuing a chimera. So spirituality is a total scam. Consciousness is really a disease. It has been demonstrated intellectually already for more than 100 years. Because the Fourier series goes back to the middle of the 19th century, I think, the mathematical law that corresponds to that, and, of course, all people who have this mathematical knowledge or apply it to a specific field, they agree perfectly. One cannot say better, something that is demonstrated, scientifically validated, therefore reproducible, that corresponds to all the mechanisms that can be observed in all the spectra of life, from ultraviolet light to all electromagnetic frequencies, music. The individual does not escape the rule. There is no better demonstration than to prove it yourself, because as long as it is external, on a mathematical series, but for them it is much easier. Scientists today, moreover, they know it, what is called zero time, that is to say the ultimate causal field of physics, and well, indeed, we have known it for a long time, that everything comes from nothing, and that you are all perspectives. That if you come out of your perspective, that is, if you come out of your ego, and if you come out of the idea of having to make an effort, it has always been present. As Nisargadatta said, it has always been demonstrated for at least 150 years, and well today, we arrive at a huge paradox, which is that all those who are trapped in their images, in their visions, in their ego, in their personality, cannot live it, because they simply do not accept the truth. And there is only one truth, it is absolute, it corresponds to all the demonstration plans. Moreover, even in Latin, when you say I exist, what does it mean I exist? It comes from the Latin root ex stare, standing outside. That's why Baidu at the end of his life said, even the I am is a scam, which Pepper called spiritual pride. Today, it has not been demonstrated, it has already been demonstrated for a long time, but today, above all, it can be seen in itself. And you can't do it as long as you care about your character, as long as you think you're the body. That's the whole Baidu principle of refutation, and today it's lived as soon as you have no perspective, as soon as you let go. What grandfather said at the time, remember, as long as you have the hand holding the peanuts in the jar, you'll never take the hand out of the jar, you have to let go. So it's a perfect demonstration, which cannot be opposed by what I call red noses, because it's nicer than telling someone that they're wrong or something. It's just because they're attached. Now when you're attached, you can only pretend, and therefore it is a posture, it is all the illusion of religions, it is all the sentences that have been pronounced by the mystics, even those who could not live it, since, as I said and I repeat, only Baidu had lived it, until not long ago. So, for the past 10 or 15 years, things had changed, because there were precursors, all the people who talked about their experiences. So I always take Christian Singer as an example, but there are others. but it is inevitable, it is unstoppable, it is demonstrable, it is verifiable. And of course, all these brothers and sisters, you can only do as Christ did. Father, that is to say, you yourselves, forgive them, they do not know what they are doing. It is so, more and more evident every day, through the testimonies, through the experiences, through the consummation we live, that I cannot even understand, indeed, how they can oppose this one truth, this total love, as soon as you leave the perspective or the localized point of view of the location of a character, or your stories that you tell yourself, or the visions that you are discussing. Zero time is accessible to everyone, a color is only a specificity of the spectrum, but we know very well that all colors come from white, from transparency. You see the colors because the air is transparent. However, you cannot see yourself until you are transparent. Should we have the humility to accept that you are not this point of view, this character, that you take it in all directions, I do not see how they will resist long. Sister, in Philip's Gospel, there is a wonderful text that says that Jesus entered, I don't know in which blue. Not 4, in the Gospel of Philip. He took 72 colors, he came in, like a dyer, he took 72 colors and put them in a basin, and it became white. It is a very beautiful text which, I explain it badly, it is like a dyer in the Gospel of Philip. Well, yes, what is it? It's the 72 names of God. That's it, and the 72 is a sacred number that can be found in all. That is exactly what it is, but today it is the same, compared to the rebirth that was part of yesterday's crop circle, which talks about the 12 stars, the constellation of the Virgin Mary. The prodigal son's return home is only the end of the story, and it can only be chaos. To find the white noise again is the disappearance of all forms, the end of the myth of creation, which can only be a collective process. And even when I said last year, we don't leave anyone, but, it's not even conceivable to leave anyone, since everyone is in each of us. This is the process that is now demonstrated, which is called, for those who are interested, string theory, and in the process not of quantum physics, but of quantum entanglement, what the wise said, when a butterfly's wing breaks, the whole universe shakes. It's not a metaphor or a poem, it's the strict truth. But as long as you do not accept it, you cannot live it, without a pejorative notion, to say, he is in the ego, he does not see the truth, you cannot see the truth, there is nothing to see, you can only live it. It was Moses in front of the burning bush, he said to him, but what are you, what are you? The other answers him, but I am what I am. And of course, this simplest truth, remember in history, Moses he simply goes down with first. Love one another, he breaks the tables of the law because, while he is gone, they all worship the golden calf, that is, not silver in the material sense, but they worship the form, they worship the particularity, and they lost sight of the globality. Because duality is the very wrong confrontation, the law of action-reaction, but the law of action-reaction does not allow you to understand that everything comes from grace, or everything comes from love, or everything comes from nothing, it is the same thing. And of course, as long as you are believers in anything, you cannot be free. If you believe in your character, you are not free. If you believe in history, you are not free. If you believe in the religion, you are not free. If you love the other without loving yourself, it is useless, and it is unstoppable. And that is the resolution of the equation. That is what I keep saying, that we are not our life, but that we are life. That is what Christ said, I and my Father are one, we are one in the others, and it is not possible otherwise. That is the demonstration of quantum entanglement or string theory. There are no more dimensions than butter on a skewer. We only exist because we believed in a particularism, maintained by other particularisms, of the belief in history. There is no need for a speech since the zero time is updated for everyone, just accept it. And it will become more and more clear every day, because regardless of the absolute truth, this ultimate causal field of physics has been reactivated, having put an end to the binary matrix a year ago, and which is replaced by the crystalline matrix. So, wherever you look in physics, astrophysics, colors, symbology, numerology, the very constitution of the human body is only a dream, whether you take it from the study of Kabbalah, from the study of Hebrew letters, from the study of colors, from the study of numbers, you can only find the truth. It is written in everything that is false, and the truth could only be written in the heart, that is, in our particularism, which is our last name and our first name, which is totally ephemeral, but which nevertheless should allow us to name ourselves. As soon as you name yourself, as the testimonies abound, well, it's over, you can no longer be fooled, you consume yourself. And it is really a bonfire, which all mystics have described, when they spoke of the consummation of love. The stars were very clear on this ecstasy that Mawanandamwe was experiencing, which was indeed, among the stars, the closest to the original dimension. Everything has been lived, and this, in every time, not only today, since today does not exist any more than yesterday. That is how we get out of particularism, or from the narrow point of view of the person who thinks he is isolated. And concretely, indeed, objectively, mathematically, we can only be one in the other, and as long as you do not accept that good and evil do not exist, except in your particularism, you will never be free, except that now, freedom is for all, but that it is useless to oppose the truth, whether you live it or not. That is why the unknown became known, that is why there was all the teaching of Nisargadatta when he was alive, all that he called the unknown, the Parabrahman, which is the only way to escape perspective, to escape suffering, to escape the vital fire, the fire of the ego, and any disease. As I explain it by neuroscience, by the theory of complaint, everything you are, everything you care about, holds you. But in all the sentences now, it's clear. Even the 4 pillars of the heart that we have been talking about with that for years now find their justification, not as an effort or a work that had to be done to whiten a little that person's narrow field of consciousness, that is, to move to supra-consciousness, but today you no longer need consciousness. And all those who oppose this disease, which is consciousness, only reinforce the disease. And the more the informational field of zero time will take, what is called the noosphere, that is, the collective unconscious, no one will be able to oppose it. Whatever you say today, it doesn't matter, you can only burn through your localized perspective. All those who believe they play a role, or to be this, or to be that, or a star, don't know what, the result can only be the same, from everywhere. Not only on this earth, because even an archangel, even the civilization of triangles, they are dependent on a form, even if it lasts since the beginning of creation as Metatron or as Mary, but it is a pipe, it is still a story. There was never any history. If you accept it today, you can only see joy, you can only see it, and I still have testimonies of it today from brothers and sisters who really have serious structural organic diseases, since birth or for a long time, who go through this intolerable suffering, and who are free. You can never be fooled again. Sister, what is the use of having wings? What's the point of having wings? Laughs. Because it is the illustration of the caterpillar that becomes the butterfly, you are no longer linked to the earth element, nor even to the origin of creation to the water element, but you connect yourself to what with the wings, to the air. Sister, yes, but it's still a form. No. The first form appeared where, in the logic and genesis of the dream? By Metatron, a true copy of the source, but nevertheless private, because of the primary anomaly, which is ultimately a blessing. Again, if there had not been a primary anomaly, the dream would have been a sleep and a total oblivion. However, we have never been able to forget. And even today, whatever location you take, whatever point of view you take, you can only consume love. Everything is in its place, whatever you think about it, love is everywhere, and especially in the one who does not live it. There is no more devil than there is God. You can only see this from the moment you experience it. But until you live it, you can only put yourself in a limited perspective, and you can only suffer. But suffering, as I said, leads in the same way, and this is neurochemical, to resilience and therefore to love. end of the belief in death, but also end of the belief in all particularism. Accept even more today than in previous years, that there is no effort to be made. As long as you think you are making an effort, for whatever reason, you are still in the ego, in a limited point of view. It concerns everything. All these guilt factors, for example, are only deviations, they are positioning errors. You are still positioned somewhere and you are not everywhere. Now, you're everywhere only when you are nothing, and the demonstration there, I will send it to you, if you want, for those who are interested even if only in sound, and why it was important to name yourself. It is written in the Bible, it is still written that the Spirit, Bereshit bara Elohim, the Elohims gave you the power to name everything. But naming everything and identifying everything is a particularism. You forgot, we all forgot to name ourselves. Today the verification of this absurdity, this monumental humor, to call oneself by last name and first name, today in this form, in this moment, is the only way to free oneself. And you can only free yourself, and you cannot escape your identity. So, it is obviously a problem, like Francis Priscille, that is, you have stolen from yourself, and all those who wanted to give soul names, in all spiritual movements, to give you another name, but they were liars, big liars. You are what you are, and you are nothing else. It is not a vision, it is not a perception, it is the word/verb. That is why the verb of the 11th body, which began to be active many years ago, today has its full effectiveness, from the moment you name yourself. Concretely and physically, you are not that body, okay, but you are nevertheless that name. The junction point between being and non-being is there. Why, for example, in the expression I am you, I was forced to lie down, I explained it this morning to Abraham, because as long as I have a perception of my body, which is the case when I am sitting, even if I am in meditation, in a sofa, in a lotus, you cannot disappear from this particularism. Your spine, the tree of life, must no longer be vertical, upright, but horizontal, that is, the proprioception of being your life, on your tree of life, must be at rest, so that the non-being can manifest itself. The unknown has become known, and this applies to everyone, to the whole creation. And it can only happen on earth, not elsewhere. It is of a total precision, by whatever means you take it, by science, by experience, you cannot escape it. And that's why I keep saying and repeating that everything has already been written. Of course, even the greatest mystics, the greatest saints, could never access it. Even Peter Dennett walking as he was, could only be in a linear projection, because it was necessary to wait for the return to the initial point, which is nothing more than the final point. And now everything is clear, everything is clear. It is the first flash of creation as we say, that draws the flash of the tree of life, the tree of Zephyret. All traditions were to notify it, even with error, because the zero time was not yet, the dream was not finished, but they all left the testimony of it, even without knowing it. Everything that happens even on the screen of the simulacrum joins the sacred. There is no more simulacrum than the sacred, because everything is simulacrum, or everything is sacred, it doesn't change anything. Only the disappearance of consciousness, which is a tragedy, of course, for those who are subject to their consciousness, can allow you to live the truth. You have no choice, as I have always said, as long as you believe you have the choice, you cannot be free, you are still somewhere in a particularism. You are still, and we are still, in the adherence to a history, a vision, a form, a perception. Truth is without vision, perception, energy and vibration. Just accept it and you are free. But as your conscience cannot accept it, there had to be a common denominator, the only common denominator to everything on this earth, it is the name you bear. And there can be no mistakes, everything else is just cinemas, that sometimes we realize, we still tell ourselves, because of emotions, because of memories, because of positioning, no positioning can be real. There is no other truth than the absolute truth. Everything has been demonstrated, everything has been experienced, there is no point in seeing it. as I tell you, when I stand at the edge of being and not being, indeed I saw everything, but now, even more. I said when I closed my eyes, LUC is ever, whatever the position, and when I lay down, because Abraham asked me, but it is a channeling from whom, but it is not even a channeling, it is not even LUC AYOUN, it is not even ever, nor anyone. These are very simple words that came out yesterday for almost 2 hours. But it is the word, and I do not own it, precisely because my body, my vertebral axis was horizontal, so the proprioception of the central vertebral axis disappeared, set at 0 time, and expression through a particularism that disappeared, of the only truth. But this truth does not belong to anyone, it is everyone's gift. Sister. Yes, just to talk about that. This morning, while discussing with a brother, he expressed that yesterday, at the end of the third part, he had already heard it. It was a repetition of what had been said the first two, and, personally, my experience, I was sitting, like all of us, you were with the ground, and in what had been happening for almost 2 hours, there were moments when it was so uncomfortable, on the physical level, to let this brand new. Is that the primordial ether? Is that what? But it gave me, it wasn't pain, but it was painful, it was like impatience, something new, something that wasn't burning like the 2 times before, the last 2 days, but something that was uncomfortable, that was new, and then I answered this brother, I said, but what was important was not the words, since we knew them, all that we know, there is nothing new, there were repetitions, even repetitions during, and it was this deployment of what you call the word/verb, but it is completely new. And last night, and I was able to check it with many brothers and sisters this morning, since I arrived almost at the moment it was starting, I didn't have breakfast, it was special, there was a ardor during the night, it wasn't a nightmare, but there was an inner fog, and there was something that spread, and finally in my experience I would say, these days I've often wondered, what is the extinction of consciousness? And the extinction of consciousness, in quotation marks, for me was not to think anymore, and not to prepare anymore, and not to reflect anymore, and then, here, somewhere, that's it, there it is. Yes, that's right. That's it, this morning, when we woke up, that's it. Yes, it can only become clearer and clearer, no matter what your body or your conscience says, you can't escape it, it's impossible. It was this feeling that it is, there is no way to describe it, it is difficult to talk about it, but at the same time we cannot escape it, we're there, that is clear. That's what I was saying, whether you deny it or accept it, doesn't change anything. That is to say, whatever the particularism you adopt today, religious, spiritual grouping, belief in any vision, you can only consume yourself. There is no other way. The truth has not only been spoken, it has been proclaimed, it is inscribed in the eternity of the present moment, and it can only be lived. There is no other choice. And even if you oppose it, that's the miracle of only one thing, it's that even if you oppose it, as I said, let the dreamers dream, the result will always be the same. And this principle of acceptance, and of the people, as I said, of the testimonies of brothers and sisters who have had illnesses since birth, almost since birth, well, they are going through the same thing. There are few of them I published, well, they see that's the truth. Even if they said, I don't see Agape, I don't see Agape, I don't feel the energies, I feel that my body hurts. Well, they all have the same conclusion today. But this time it's not even Agape anymore, this time. No, it is no longer Agape. No, you are no longer even in Agape, because Agape is a resonance, it is no longer even the fire of the Sacred Heart, it is the total fire. Because I don't even want to say Agape or Faham anymore, what? In the end, it's not even worth it anymore, it is no longer necessary for you, but perhaps necessary for others. But indeed, at some point, you don't even need it anymore. What I have tried to express, for example, in relation to requests for resonance or care, it is enough for me to say the name, and even if I do not read it, it cannot be forgotten. That's the miracle. but the miracle does not come from the one who believes himself this or that, it is life. Of course, through living it, all beliefs collapse, all religions collapse, but they have had their function, it is to confront each other. Today it happens, the war of all against all, which will show you that there has never been a war, there has never been anything, there is no person. The best testimony we have had of it in the 20th century, as I have always said, is Mananda Moye. It is the closest to the truth in what she embodied and the only one who spoke the absolute truth, and not the way, the truth, the life, which should allow us to achieve it. Christ, who is an essential milestone, is by it. There is no one else. That's why he always said, my words can't fail. So of course, everyone who came to see him, well, what a fucking ego, what indifference, never mind. Sister. He was as close as possible to the word/verb, by it, he was already as close as possible to the verb, inaudible, that's why he said, my words, he was talking about the verb. Yes, 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 yes. Everything you have heard, everything that your conscience crosses, and especially the things to which you are opposed, you can see well, the brothers and sisters who call me all the names, well they can only be consumed. Let the dreamers dream, the dream lives to the end of the dream anyway. It is inevitable. So of course, the chaos of the world, that is to say the noise, that is to say the cacophony as we sing the sounds, led in the same way as to the one who lives agape, to be the truth. No one will survive. I said we are not leaving anyone behind, but it is not even a job, it is not a resolution, the resolution is already written in the initial moment. All the laws of quantum entanglement of string theory, neurobiology, neuroscience, all the understanding of the laws of this universe, refer us to that. Nothing that was hidden will remain hidden, that is exactly the truth. And even the mistake, in the end, is not a mistake, there is no mistake anywhere. Sister. And it took 3 tenses for this word/verb to unfold, and now through the audios, and all over the world. Yes, 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 it was announced, as I was telling you, by the crop circle that was traced yesterday by the Arcturians, who announced the coronation of the Virgin, the 12 stars. We have brought the 3 together in one, and again I do not make any specificity of it, but as I said, I'm only accompanying what has been written. We meet again, we explained it, we repeat it. Last year, we flew over Hawaii in naked consciousness, to put an end to the dream, and today we are on the other side, no longer in the Pacific, but in the Atlantic, in the place of the last dream, but physically this time, really and concretely. Brother, I just want to add, if you remember that on the first day, or the first evening, when I gave my testimony of the dream I had had, it was shown to me that now we are disconnected from the continents. We are on an island. Yes, surrounded by water. That's right. So, let's leave everything aside that is part of the continent again, and we are on the island in unity, unity light. That's the message I wanted to send. I don't know if you remember, when I told you, we're now disconnected, disconnected from our intelligence, disconnected from everything. We're unique, whole, true, alive, light. And we express it through our lives. There is nothing to eliminate, nothing to reject. When you are life, you live your life, without any more questions, even though life gives you something to live. There is no other freedom than this one. And if you feel pain, if you experience a question, again about that, I'm not talking about questions about what you're going to eat, what you're going to wear, these questions will be there until the last moment. But if there is a question about the very meaning of who you are not free, you cannot be unique and whole by carrying the slightest fear, guilt, or feeling the slightest lack. And you're the author of it. As long as you believe it is external or related to a condition, or related to an event, or a lack, you have not seen yourself. You can invent all the scenarios, you can project all the evil outside, it comes only from you. It is particularism, that is, the narrow point of view, which both creates suffering, sustains it, and perpetuates it at the collective level, in the whole of creation, not only in enclosed worlds. There is no saviour. It was still necessary to live it, or at least to accept it. You have the ultimate key in you, as long as you have not accepted yourself, and even in your particularities of suffering, guilt and fear, you cannot yet be free. But you will be. It is only you who create distance from yourself, it is only you who create suffering from yourself. What the first epistle of St. Paul also said, no matter how much faith you have in lifting the mountains, you can speak all tongues, and even that of the angels, if you lack agape, that is the exact word, you are not free. So we replaced it with charity, with the word love, but it's not true. Grant yourself freedom, grant yourself joy, you don't have to think about energies, neither vibrations, nor about tomorrow. You're the only one responsible, there's only you. Accept it, do not discuss it and check it for yourself, living it at that moment, instantly. Without it you will always have something miserable, until the collective moment, and now, as Bhatti said, several months ago, it is not love or fear, it is love or suffering, and the two cannot live together, choose. And the choice is not one, when I say that, you have no choice. Sister. Yes, because when there is consummation, it is done alone, so there is no choice. But no, there are no more choices. It is the consummation. All those, even when we were with the fire of the Sacred Heart, a few days ago, where everything went and returned to the heart, is replaced, you become as many say, this torch of fire, you're the way, you are much more than the way, much more than the truth, much more than the life, there is no one, you're everything, because you are nothing. And there are no more choices. There are no more choices. And whatever the event, it is ongoing, since we create it ourselves. And we still see it everywhere today, it is war, as they say, the war of all against all, you see it in families, you see it in religions, you see it between countries, between nations, you also see it, you live it inside you. And even, as I told you, for very physical sufferings, I am not talking about spirituality or consciousness, but about things that are anchored in that body, through birth issues, or old, that cannot be resolved. Well, people can still solve it. That is, you are crossing, and there is no healing more just than accepting. Remember the theory of the complaint in neuroscience, I talked about it again this week, as long as you oppose it, you are not free. As long as you believe that you will heal, because there is a vibration, because you have asked for it, well you will not heal. But healing for everyone is achieved, but you delay by playing time. The real miracle, it's there, it's not anywhere else. Everything you care about, retains you. You want to save your life, you're going to lose it, and it is at stake at all levels, your beliefs, your habits, of course, as we have said, your own positioning. After everyone has their life, everyone has to lead what they have to lead in a story, but you are no longer fooled. It's disarmingly simple, it's humorous, but it's insane, and now, since the beginning of this week, so we're in Tenerife on this island, it's happening everywhere. In the same way that the fusion of the fourth S took place in the Strait of Gibraltar, between the columns of Hercules, because it could not be elsewhere. Once again, I do not create anything and I do nothing, I only go through, as I always tell you, what has always been written. Yes. Brother, why is it necessarily on earth, and why not on Alton or elsewhere? But because there is no more Alton than butter on the skewer, there are no more stars in the sky, all that, the cosmos in Sumerian, cosmos, it means snake skin, it's a screen that we put on the truth, it's a set. There is no more Mary than there are more triangles, there is no more Metatron, there are no more archangels, they are stories. These are projections. Yes, that we created ourselves to find each other. There's no one to follow. Even the energy is eating us. I have always told you, yet I was an energy doctor for 25 years, energy is a scam. However, it can still be used today, fortunately. But we're no longer fooled. Once again, it is disarmingly simple, and everything that has served us to rediscover the meaning, or the senses of history, today must be dropped. But this release is not an effort, nor a progression, it is a restitution. You restore yourself, through sacrifice, you restore yourself, by living it. There is no choice. And besides, translation, as we know, we've been talking about it for a year now, it's joy, it's the banana on your lips, whatever the circumstances of your life, even if everyone has moments when you get angry, you get into anything, just to make you see what's left, not as an effort to make, but as something to let go. You have never been asked to leave your family, your husband, your house, your money, or anything else. This is part of your decor. And there is no more devil than God, there are no more wicked than good. When I said that we are all the same particle, and the other one is us, in another time frame, in another moment, it is the strict truth. You can't accept, if I may say so, but the unacceptable is going through. That is embracing, we used everything that was available, to come to this unique conclusion. And the liberation, it's there. We've always been free. End of the dream, end of consciousness, return to the fullness of nothingness. Of course, those who consider that nothingness is the devil, it is Satan, the poor. Forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. In the mockery, there was a president in France who told you, no one will be able to escape the New World Order, this is the mod version. That's what the puppets play, but they play the same score, seen from another perspective. All that is opposed can only be consumed, in us, the world can only be a dream, and can only be consumed. It is the white paradise, which will be accepted as a happiness by more and more brothers and sisters, whatever the previous positioning, and whatever the particularism. And that I had already said, no one can ignore that it is love, prior to consciousness, love needs neither form, nor world, nor consciousness, nor witness. And I don't give a damn if you agree or disagree. We can discuss this forever, you can only consume yourself, whether it is through anger, sadness, suffering, denial, whatever. And again, as I say all the time, I have nothing to sell you. It is not a business, it is not a belief, I said it and I repeat it, no one can follow anyone. As Nisargadatta, whom I read last night, who is magnificent, said, Krishnamurti also said about the same sentence. You are looking for happiness, but happiness is without you. As long as you believe you are looking for happiness, well, you will never find it. Hence all these illusions of all spiritual movements, of all the new ages, of all the people who still sell you a well-being, whatever it may be. If you are true, whatever you use in your profession, in your effects or in your experience, it doesn't matter, they are just pretexts. But if you want it, everything you care about, retains you. But what you retain, what we still retain today, will consume us. Wherever you look, on the stage of the theater, wherever you look, wherever you have understood the programming of that video game, it doesn't matter, the conclusion is necessarily the same for everyone, and there is nothing more logical than that it happens precisely on this earth. An archangel is an archangel. He does not ask himself any questions, he travels in dimension, he is dependent on the dimensional framework in which he expresses himself, he has never moved one iota. And the story we are witnessing, since we are here on Earth, I am not only talking about Tenerife, on this island, but about what the world is showing us, whether it is disguised by the media, whether it is experienced live in the country where you are, does not change anything, they are just pretexts. And suffering, physical suffering, like that which is, in quotation marks, promised by everything that takes place on earth, not to mention the prophets, famine, everything that is there, at our doorstep, goes only towards the one thing. So of course, those who are in the religions talk to you about punishment, about last judgment, those who are in preservation will adhere to the survivor, or will take refuge in prayer, or in a religion, or in I am the truth, Look at all these sheep, as some do, the poor, they are still subjected to something. In freedom, there is no submission, if not to the laws, not of society, but to the laws of the world in which we are. Even if the winds grow, you can put yourself on the edge of a precipice. I don't think that if you jump, your wings will allow you, even if they spread, to fly away. This is where it happens, not anywhere else. It is the power of the present moment, in which time zero is written. Things are well done. It is also inscribed in the past, in the illusion of the past, but also in the projections, for those who dream. Let them dream. And today the greatest dreamers are those who are in the religions, those who are in the hope of the Messiah or the Antichrist, depending on the point of view, those who still believe in a story, or those who think they're accomplishing a story and creating circumstances conducive to the coming of their Messiah. This is a spectacle. But all shows, take us where we have never moved. Even suffering is only a pretext to lead us to love. But it is not the suffering of misery, as I have already said, of the Catholic who inflicts whips on himself, or of the one who wants to do penance. It will be expressed in your body, in your conscience. Brother, oh, are these the little appendages that pushed them? Yes, well, it's more like wings now, than balls or babies coming out of the womb, but it was a necessary step, yes. She will recognize herself, as she has always followed us. Brother, a testimony I experienced yesterday. I've been telling my wife for a while. Which one, Francis? Laughs. Ah, Francis, yes. I adopted the Francis. Laughs. I told him, one day I will go up to small lakes, which are not far from home, in the name of a place. It's a wonderful place for those who know it. It's in the Pyrenees, it's beautiful, and often we went up there, and once I really enjoyed walking in the mountains. And also, I was a biker, I saw a lot of bikes yesterday. And all that was, it no longer existed. These bikes were passing by, I was happy, I didn't need a bike, I saw them, it didn't touch me at all, but one thing I said in Priscilla one day, to the other, so? Laughs. To the other one. At the time it was Priscilla, now it's Francis. At the time I said to the other one, I will go up to the B. And considering my state of operation, my pains and all that, I don't know if you believed it or not, at last you were skeptical. Yes. Yesterday I was at the B. Yesterday I always got off the bus last so as not to disturb anyone. I waited until Annie was outside. I made a lot of communion with Yanni. I was a lot with you. I felt her physical or moral pain, seen in the state she is, and also my own pain, and it was indifferent. These pains were there, and I was surprised, because they knew me. I growled quickly, when something was wrong. And there yesterday I was happy, I was integrated into all this, despite the pain, there was joy and happiness, and that is something extraordinary. That is what we can experience today, what I have discovered. I had, before coming here, I cried, I said, the first morning I sat here when I saw all this scenery, I was elsewhere. I wasn't at home though. Gina, look and Elty know the place where I live, it's such a beautiful, magnificent place. But it has nothing to do with that. When I was here, it was the energy that was here, the love that was here, the light that was here, that permeated me. And that, I constantly have it, and that you can have it right away, that's it, you just have to accept it, to receive it. And every time I get off the bus, I say, oh my God, it creaks everywhere, it hurts, I used to run, I used to like to go out and see, but not there, I could look from the inside and I participated, I was involved in all that. That's the testimony I'm giving, and it's exactly what we just heard this morning. Despite the pain, despite what you have, you're happy, there is joy, there is peace, there is light. Whatever the body says. Whatever the body says. The body, it doesn't exist. As if it doesn't exist anymore, it's there, you feel it, but you're not the body anymore, you're out of it. And then I made a lot of connection with you, Annie. I could feel you, I felt you, it was beautiful. That is my testimony. But when I asked Annie this morning, how are you feeling, she said, good. Brother, well, that's exactly what it is. So let's not look at our suffering anymore, let's forget all this, there's something else. It's a huge gift to us. Thank you. Thank you. You want to confirm with a word or two, to Annie? Sister, yes, that's right. I have joy. It shows, those who have known Annie since the first time I saw you in all this, there's nothing left to see, nothing left. Those who have known me for a long time too, there is nothing more to see, compared to even some time ago, we will say, yet, I am still the same, and yet everything is different. And this is not, once again, an exception, or because I am the master of I don't know anything, or I am anyone. It is accessible to everyone, and Mon just said it, and he said it in a few words. Everything else is only strategies, your history, your habits, your beliefs, your visions, your perceptions themselves. The truth is without perception, love is without consciousness, without that it is not love. It is a love that depends on a perspective, an idea, a story, and all that is suffering. Love does not necessarily put an end to all suffering, miracles are not instantaneous, sometimes yes, but in any case, love makes you go through all suffering, as soon as you accept. I told you what happened to me several days ago with the pain, because we all have habits, regardless of what is written in the body. Unfortunately, we are beings of repetition, we are beings of habit in our simplest humanity. But rediscovering our humility also means accepting our humanity in its entirety, with all these failings, all these apparent deficiencies, with the weight of ages, of age if we are old, with all these emotions that pass through us, all these thoughts that are born and disappear. Don't judge yourself, never. There has never been a mistake, there has never been a mistake, everything has been a pretext. Preconditions that are necessary for you to live it. And the joy of which Anthony speaks, of which we have been talking for a long time, when you live it, you can no longer deceive yourself, you can no longer lie to yourself, you can no longer lie at all. You are no longer the word, you are the word/verb. I insisted on that. In all the words you say, even the simplest ones, the weather is fine, you are the word/verb. It is not elsewhere that in what comes out of your mouth, Christ said, I have not come to bring peace, I have come to carry the word, the sword of truth. We were born again, confirmed by the I am you in 3 stages, 3 parts, confirmed by the Arcturians themselves in the crop circle they traced yesterday. I can't tell you any better. During the celestial weddings, every week, there was a crop circle that explained what we were going through. But it's the same today. Sister, as everything is perfect in the sign, it is Mother's Day in France, today, in France, and therefore the coronation. That's right. In France. In France, it is Mother's Day, yes. And Notre Dame de Paris burnt down, but all this is totally synchronous. For a year I have been saying that the simulacrum joins the sacred, to perform the miracle of one thing only. We have gathered the 3 in 1, we experienced it a year ago in Hawaii, in the first Eden, we live it today in this incarnate plane, in the last Eden. It is even part of my personal history, in my adoptive family, where one of the nephews is called Eden, and who was born last year at this time. It's written all over the place. All creation, all dream is expressed through you, in all the nooks and crannies of your life space, in all the events, in all the things you accept, in all the things you refuse, in all the things you understand, in all the things you do not understand. Nothing is left to chance since everything has been written. There has never been time. You discover when time stops that you are space. When you live the heart of the heart, the fire of the heart, at some point you consume everything. You no longer even know where your heart is, it is everywhere. That is the joy, and I would say even more violently today, the suffering that can be carried, in whatever field it is. It is your own creation, there is no culprit, there is only you, and everything you see outside is there only to bring you to that. Both friend and enemy, what you accept and what you refuse, can only lead you to acceptance. And the more you will oppose yourself, those who are still in religions, in movements or in negation or in ego, the same result, there is no other. And I say for all those who would get angry after hearing that, it doesn't matter, get angry. Laughs. Sister. Symbolically, everything is told to us. I remember in 1999, the Soviet submarine that couldn't get to the surface, and I thought, we're at the end of the fish age, underwater. And they haven't found the key to enter the Aquarian era. Everything is told to us. And another thing, a few years ago, I heard on the radio, on Mount Ligia in Israel, what is its name, not Mount Sinai, where there is Carmel, Mount Carmel. Mount of St. Catherine? Yes, that's right, the Mount of St. Catherine. I hear one morning, a bus, with 40 prison guards. Yes, I remember that. 40 prison guards, who caught fire on the mountain of Ligia, which is the meeting between the Old and the New Testament. It was incredible, 40 prison guards, that is, the whole old world going up in smoke. I hear that on the radio and I think to myself, it's like the fire that took place last night in Bordeaux, at 18 Rue Ferrer. Yes, and when you read the newspapers symbolically like that, it's extraordinary, every day. Yes. Ah, but it's in everything, it's written everywhere, even in the puppets, even in what they believed, they lit the fire to Notre Dame, or that he didn't light it, or that it was accidental, or that it was a fake flag, but it doesn't matter, they can only create what has already been written. The conscious co-creation that we've been talking about for almost 2 years is exactly that. You can only create what has already dreamed. You have no freedom of choice, that's the only truth. And the more you accept it, the more you laugh about it, the more you relax, and the more you follow the lines of least resistance, what I called yesterday, in the Satsang, yesterday or the day before yesterday, I don't remember, perhaps last night, what we call the fluidity of unity, neurobiological efficiency, and the more euphoric you are, the more you bathe in oxytocin, the less dependent you are on the environment, whatever it is, the sounds, the music, you can no longer be disturbed by noise. There is a testimony from a brother, I told you, who hears a hammer sound inside him. At that moment, it is that precise moment that the neighbor chooses to hit a hammer, to drive a nail, or I don't know what, that usually would have taken him out of his meditative state. He realized that he was not in meditation, that he was in truth. The truth is not a meditation. He could only notice that the sacred that was taking place in him was illustrated at the same time by the neighbor who started to drive a nail in. So, at first, we can talk about synchronicity or disturbance, then we can talk about hypersynchronicity, and then we can see that it is the same thing. Wherever you look within yourself, wherever you look in your life, whatever you think about it, everything is there only to lead you to love. Even if you think you are lacking love or missing, you say to yourself, I have not experienced anything, it always leads to the same thing, to the truth, to realize, that indeed as Nisargadatta said, as many have said, it has always been there, and that only the perspective as the sound engineer said, there, or the point of view, why we talked so much in 2012 about point of view. The point of view is not a point of view as we vulgarly understand it simply from thought. What is your point of view? No, the point of view is where you look at it, where you live. From the periphery, from the environment, or from the heart of the heart. And everything is only a pretext to bring your consciousness back, via the supra-consciousness at the time, since consciousness is vibration, to bring you as close as possible to this great burst of laughter. Absolutely everything. And again, don't take that, I would say, at the level of your character. As I said, if you break your leg, you have to put a cast on. If you're in pain, go see an osteopath, but you can no longer be trained anywhere but in the truth. Do not look for any more explanation, even if it exists. That's what I was saying to Vincent. It's very interesting to know that when you have pain there, whether it's with the scanning or with the symbolic knowledge of the body, to connect it to, but the important thing, as always, is efficacy, it's not understanding. In therapy it is the same. You can know all the energies of the world, you can use all the energies of the world, but if you are not spontaneous, you cannot be free. Happy the cracked ones, they led past the light, what is called the fooling God or the madman in Christ. Rumi expressed it very well during his life. Love can hold nothing, and it holds nothing for you. It is the expression of spontaneity, of the path of childhood if you prefer, of humility, of simplicity. This is the moment when you yourself become lightness, fluidity. Life lives by itself, it doesn't need you. So we can multiply the examples ad infinitum. You walk, you don't need to think about walking to walk when it was acquired. You don't need to wonder how you see, knowing that the retina sends such and such an image through the optical chiasma is. The flower, she doesn't ask herself the question of her perfume. The candle does not question what it illuminates. Everything is done without you, you're the witness, you're the observer, but you are also the creator, long before the dream or the explanation. Consciousness is a disease, of course, but we are also the disease. Without it I couldn't even talk about it, there would be no one to hear it or listen to it. This is what ends the world, this is what Bidi expressed, the search for truth and living the truth will end creation. He was certainly the greatest of the visionaries, who did not need to carry prophecies or images, or staged scenes, like the prophets. Shall we take a break? You want to take a break? 1 hour and 26 minutes, come on, alright. So I'm going to pause it, simply, rather than stop it, it will avoid making 2 recordings. Noon to 4 o'clock. Oh, Bida's channeling. At 4 o'clock, yes, yes, yes. After the nap. After the nap. Satsang pause. That's it, so we're talking about what you want. So, Annie. Wait, I'll be right there. No, no. The channeling, we'll do it there, it'll be more comfortable. Come on. Come on. We've exhausted all the words, I think. Small laughs. You can also decide that you're fed up, and we can stop now. Brother, do you have any information about stem cells? In what way do you mean that? A stem cell, by definition, is a cell that has all the potential. But what information are you talking about? Oh, a few, because before, medicine in pharmacopoeia, they were trying to slow down aging. It worked very well with embryonic extracts. I experienced this in France 30 years ago, after that it was banned, like everything that works, of course, but these are techniques that are used either by placental implants or by embryonic extracts, in Russia again, on a daily basis. In Switzerland, moreover, you have clinics that sell you this for thousands of euros, which is aimed at rejuvenation. But you're getting younger through the heart, it's still easier. Look at this. Laughs. No, this is a very, very medical field. Sister Jean, look, last night, at the end, he said I seal all my words forever. Yes, the lyrics. Yesterday, you saw, and it lasted a long time, but as we all saw, there was nothing new. No, it seemed like he was doing an inventory and at the end he said I seal, and that was. Yes, that expression is also found in the Apocalypse of St. John, I believe. No one can open the seals, of course, and no one can remove or withdraw a word from, of the Apocalypse of St. John, it's in the same spirit, we'll say. So any words that have been said during these 3 days cannot fail. There you go. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. As I said, yesterday, it's not a channeling, this third part, I explained that in relation to the position of the body, just now, even talking about a channeling, for me, it no longer means anything. Canalization means that there is something that passes through them, that we embrace, as we did before, Enel who was coming down, or Mary, but as they are all in our hearts. And like all that, it doesn't exist what is being expressed, what I call the heart of the heart, zero time, the junction of being and non-being where I had to be extended. I explained to you why this morning. When it is said that it is sealed, that is, that the word has become flesh, and you show yourself to yourself, by pronouncing your last name and first name. And the so-called sealed words no longer allow, when they are realized, to project, analyze or try to find a meaning to the word. There is a known meaning, we work like that. I explained it in our brains. Words no longer make sense in our heads, they are no longer words. Often there are words that we do not understand, we hear them, we hear syllables, and these assembled syllables, which are a concept that we have named, a table, a chair or such identity, no longer make sense, especially when there are 3 syllables, beyond 2, because 2 still do. Because our brain, of course, the transformation we are going through, the disappearance of consciousness, we must not forget that we have a relay, so that we can express it or manifest it here, which is the brain. However, since the brain no longer exists, since it is the heart that has become the brain, all brain structures, as demonstrated in the United States and everywhere, in neurotheology, the awakening of Kundalini, clairaudience, clarity, access to other dimensions, are seen on MRIs, on scanners. If it is not printed in the brain, it is because it is even more illusory than illusion, that is, it is astral, it is dream, it is projection. Everything that is true today goes through all dimensions, and all the more so, and first of all, our brain, it is printed in the brain. Joy, as I told you, is linked to a specific neurotransmitter which is oxytocin. You can well imagine that all the circuits, I mentioned it a little, that we call reward, punishment, but not only, all the functions of epiphysis, since there is a hormone that is secreted at that time, called epiphysing, but the functioning of all the nuclei that correspond to the functions, habits, what is called the brain, the paleocortex, that is, the reptilian brain or the archaic brain, is totally transmuted. That is to say, in the work that has been done in the United States, in different teams, we could differentiate between the true mystic and the false mystic, that is, the one who dreams, who imagines, and the one who really lives it. It's like the Advent of Dainter. I told you, there are many authors of the Advent of Dainter, but when you live the absolute, really, you see immediately through the sentences that are, a simple sentence, if these people only tell what they have read, or if they really live it. Remember, we cannot live the truth, and maintain the concept of good and evil, which is what all spiritualists do, who say, oh la la, evil, they see evil everywhere. We can only laugh about it, and they don't see it. Yes, you have to protect yourself, or when you are told, don't touch, you have to protect, laughs. And yet, these brothers and sisters told us, I am absolute, I have disappeared, but these are lies. You cannot cheat with the truth. You can cheat with your character, with your visions, with your projections, with your desires, but the truth, I tell you, is visible as the nose in the middle of the face. How many authors have written about Advent of Dainter today, who do not experience an ounce of what they write? Yet it's beautiful, isn't it? It's pretty. Yes. Brother, yesterday, you talked about the nuclei, I think, in the brainstem. Yes. But you were talking in the fourth ventricle, you know, in the base of the fourth ventricle. No, it's the base of the fourth ventricle, it's all the nuclei of the automatic reflexes, which don't correspond, even to the vagus nerve, the lowest cranial pairs, not the ocular motors. Of course, they are elsewhere. But the whole complex, I believe it is called hypogastric, which controls the heart rate, the release of the brain stem, as well as the so-called precardial release, puts an end to duality. Does that sound familiar? All right. Sister Jean, look, I wanted to ask you, no, it's not important, for the contribution of the microphone, when you plan a week like this, do you know in advance who will talk to us? Never. You know it's by it or you're surprised yourself sometimes? No, I've never programmed anything, especially now, everything is done naturally. For example, Fathom can arrive at the minute, without you having anticipated it. What? Fathom, we had it a week ago, Bide decided to come, OMA decided to come. Yes. You never decide to make an appointment with them. No. Never. Never. Especially now. There is no more teaching, as I said, you see, we're only repeating the same thing in different ways, not to repeat, to allow you to access it, to live it. And when I say that meetings cannot fail, moreover it does not fail for those who are alive either, they do not need to be there, but it is true that I do not need 5 days, a week or 15 days. We need to be, at some point, whatever it is, whether it is by making a bang, 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 or by talking, or by being silent, and the truth is instantly recorded. After you do what you want, I tell you, there is no school, I have nothing to sell, meetings are more like an opportunity, I would say to party, we saw it yesterday, we spent a magical day up there. So I can't decide anything. The more I accept that I can't decide anything, of course, for example, for meetings, it's not me who decides. I'm going to do an internship, and as soon as I decide to do an internship in a particular place, it won't work. On the other hand, if it's someone, in any country, says, well, we'll do that, it fills up right away. I can't think of any better proof. As soon as you agree to stop controlling, you can only prove to yourself that everything is done by itself. It's the same for everything. For example, I decide that I go to a restaurant to eat something, or that I buy something, even if it is the answer of the heart. If it is I who decided, I buy the thing or I order the dish, I am no longer hungry. However, if I am available for the moment, as I was saying, in Marok, we ate 7 couscous during the week. And in my life, everything is like that, even if I played, on certain events, because the person will always be there, but the more you accept to be available, the more things are done, really and concretely, on their own. Sister. In my profession, I haven't done a commercial act in 30 years, and I was in Belgium 3 weeks ago, because a dancer friend told me, come on, I'll set up a workshop for you, and everything I've done, thousands of consultations, has always come out of friendship. I have never put anything on the internet, I have always been a free electron in there, and there is only through friendship, all these people have come through the heart. Yes, yes, yes. That's exactly what it is. Yes, yes. If you drop what you care about, even if it's an important decision in your life, I'll take an example. I want to sell my house, I do everything to sell it, it will not sell. If you say, whatever it is, it will be sold. Everything you care about, it retains you. The decisions you make on your own will be less and less effective. It is not to punish you, it is to show you that life is abundant, and, as soon as you do not put your grain of salt into it, you'll see that everything will be done. And I have brothers and sisters who live it regularly, for example, a sister recently. Oh, my washing machine broke, I don't have the money to buy one. Poof, an hour later, she was talking to a sister. Oh, but I have a washing machine that I'm going to throw away. That's synchronicity, that's fluidity. Fluidity will never come from your decision. If it's right, it will happen, and it can only be right, if you don't plan anything. That doesn't stop me from planning, or at least I'm not the one who plans the meetings, it's the people who invite me to the right, to the left, who want to organize a meeting. But if I want to be totally available for love, I cannot be available for anything else. This is the end of desire, this is what makes you realize in your own life that everything is perfect. This is the disappearance of the person, or to believe that you will succeed by will or by effort, which was nevertheless our common lot for all of us, no matter what we did before, we were to make efforts, to learn a technique, to foresee. Love never foresees. I explained it to you with the whales with Faham, Fahir, since Martina chose everything there, even the right date, and yet it has been scheduled since, I don't know when, but for a long time. We talked about it last September. That's it, it's been a long time. Who knew since last year that we were going to find ourselves there at the most opportune time to live it? If we had wanted to create it, it would never have happened. Love is an availability in the present moment. How can you be in the present moment, if you yourself guide by a choice, by a will, even if it is right, you cannot prove to yourself that it is love, and that it is not you who decides. That goes very, very far. And if you accept that, you are no longer dependent, even on physiological obligations. Eating at such and such an hour, sleeping at such and such an hour, without that you submit yourself to what you create in your head. If you believe, for example, that eating fat is not good for your health, you will have all the side effects. While there is nothing more essential than fat. Everything we're being taught even today, well, I'm not going to talk about medicine again, but everything works that way. If you're in grace, grace comes to you. If you put your character in front of it, your desire or even legitimate needs, fear, you'll have a lot of difficulties. Because love will bring you back, as soon as you have lifted one of the crowns, or the prescience on the heart, as soon as you have lifted Agape. If you persist in wanting to decide, you will find yourself confronted with big problems, and bigger, until you let go. It's not you, because if you decide, you're in your life, but you can't be your life only you have to, it's life, and you can't prove it to yourself if in your life you spend your time opposing or wanting. Oh, well, I'm in a good position to know that as a ram. Stop wanting to. Well, yes. There is only that, and the more you accept to let what must happen to you come to you, the easier it will be for you to live it, the more gifts you will have, the more graces you will have. But it requires giving up. But you can't let go from the person, you can only let go in quotation marks, your own character, your own desire, and see what life achieves. I have expressed it through whales, 10 life, but it is for all the things in your life. Everything you think you control controls you. Anything you think you decide deprives you of your essential freedom. That doesn't stop you from deciding to take a trip, it doesn't stop you from planning even encounters, but it's not me who plans them, it's life. That is, all the others who are just me, who realize it. But if you accept, you will be led by divine providence, as they say, by the spirit, by the verb. And the more you see it, the more you release the character. The more you let things happen, the more they will satisfy you. That's how you give life, and not just your narrow little life with its needs, fears, lacks or abundance, it's the same thing. And the more you accept this operating principle, the more you will check the immediate effectiveness. It is the same, I said it, I believe last night in the Satsang, the more you give yourself, without thinking, in true service, the more you give love, the more you give service, the more you live love. But if you want to live love alone in your corner through meditation, through vibrations, through prayers, you can wait a long time. The real sacrifice is not to wonder about symbols, visions or projections. Being available for the moment means not deciding, because you have no choice. If you think you have a choice and if you decide, you will never know if you're in the direction of life, even with the best of intuitions. Being available for the moment is not only when you lie down and do Agape, it is too easy, it is in all circumstances of life, even the most futile, in the ordinary of life that it is verified. How do you want to talk about love and experience visions, energies, things, and mistreat anyone? How do you want to experience this ineffable beauty that is there, if you persist in wanting to go in a given direction? That's what happens when you keep repeating, you're not your life, but your life. Happiness, but you will never find happiness. Happiness is precisely when there is no one there. And the more you adopt this way of working, the more you can only reap the benefits. You expressed it through your meeting there, your workshops in Belgium, but that's exactly what's happening in my life. So of course, at the beginning, in addition to that, Depending on your personal component, it can get a little rusty when you've gotten used to programming, to anticipating. Well, I'm not like that. In addition to having a panoramic vision like I was born, it tickles a little bit somewhere, then after that, it's such a joy. The more you let go, the more you receive. The more you give yourself, the more you are the gift, and the more you live the truth. Sister, if we could educate the little ones like that, oh la la. This is what therapists are discovering everywhere, is that if they accept not to control what they do, they will become more and more spontaneous, more and more effective, even by using a technique, but they are no longer dependent on the technique they have learned. This is the classic mechanism of consciousness. I'm not talking about supraconsciousness or anything. Consciousness always works in 3 successive modes, and here I'm talking about personal consciousness. First step, analysis. Second step, synthesis. Third step, integration. The process becomes automatic again. Whether I take the example of walking, you stand up at such an age, you stand up, you can't walk, you fall, you repeat, and then at some point, you don't think about walking anymore when you walk anyway. It's the same for the body, it's the same for the consciousness. It is the same for technology and the evolution of society. If we take the example of a car, a vehicle, before there were mechanical engines, we turned a crank handle to lower the window in one direction and mounted it in the other direction. Today it's awfully simple. We press a button, it goes up, on the same button, goes down, it goes down. Efficiency is more direct, yet the circuits have become much more complex. Before, there was a crank, or at least we turned the crank. It's not even a crank. What was it called, the thing in the car, which made the window go up and down? I don't even know anymore, but there was an extremely simple mechanism inside. It comes down to one button operation. You go up and down, while you know that inside there is an engine, there are wires, there are circuits, there are lots of things, there is a program. Brothers, remote controls, same. Yes, remote controls are the same, and everything evolves like that. That's in the simulacra. Before we needed a key to open a door. You can see that remote controls are now becoming widespread, and even in hotels, even in luxury hotels, you no longer have a key, you are given a card, which is valid from this day to that hour. So, there is an intelligence that has been implemented, human or artificial, no matter what, that leads to a simplification, but this apparent simplification of the operation is an internal complexification, since the mechanisms, before the lock, it is simple. We created the lock, we created the key, there was one key per lock, now there are electronic circuits, plus engines which will allow to activate. It's the same for everything. Analysis, synthesis, integration. It is the same in the brain. I told you, there are new circuits that have appeared, centers that have been called the star spheres that have been activated, there are learning processes that have been created, and it is the same for Agape, it is the same for freedom and spontaneity. There are mechanisms that take place. If we try to understand them, we cannot live them. If you accept them, they are lived naturally, as if you were learning to walk. But of course, this is a biological, chemical mechanism. I took the example of a car where it was before crank handle with an extremely simple motor with notches or cracks, whatever, finally strips, belts, finally wheels, pulleys and everything. For us it was complicated. You had to make a given movement, you press a button, but you had to create the engine inside, with the electronics and everything. There is an intelligence at work. This is not an artificial or human intelligence, it is the intelligence of light. And when you repeat all the time, you can't understand, because understanding freezes the experience. There too it's the same, everything has been written, even in the brain. The fact of believing oneself an individual is related to the epiphysis and the nucleus of the central thalamus. There are chemical drugs, entheogens with GSD, I said it too, or other things, or in one take, you are no longer an individual. you can see that it is a chemical process before being a process of consciousness, and fortunately, without it, it is a dream, an astral process. It will never be sustainable, and it will never be true. When you discover the truth, it puts an end to all myths of immortality. It puts an end to the dream of individuality, which is a nightmare, which of course is claimed by the red noses right now. They live in external love, because they're unable to live, because they're all they project, even the devil. Of course, the devil is always on the outside, never in them. But it's pathetic. I can't tell you any better. It's pathetic for them, the poor people. I can only repeat one more time, spirituality is a total scam, and consciousness is a disease. Fortunately, it is deadly itself. And what a relief, because any living system, I am not just talking about the human being, will always try to find what is called homeostasis, that is, its regulation, its balance, always using the least amount of energy. This is valid at the cellular level, otherwise there would be entropy and the system could not live. But when you accept that everything is done independently of you, you're free of yourself, you're free of beliefs, you're free of visions, you're free of projections, you're free of expectations. That's how you are available, no other way, to live in the present moment. This does not prevent you from scheduling an operation appointment if you have a problem that needs to be operated on. But it is an attitude of functioning, which puts an end to habits, which puts an end to all conditioning, to all the so-called cognitive slavery, to all the cognitive slavery which is linked both to our constitution, and also to all that we have experienced between 0 and 7 years, and which today we liberate, by embracing ourselves by the word/verb within the ephemeral, from our last name and our first name. Because at that moment, what is happening, now the brothers and sisters, here or everywhere, are living it, really embracing each other, whereas there are people who pronounce their names all the time, but this is a vibrational embrace, a vibration since you're carriers of the word/verb, it is the sword of truth. The sword of truth cuts off all that is illusory, all that is superfluous. It can't fail. It's even embedded in the brain structure. I explained that the fact of believing oneself to be an individual is created from scratch by the brain at the level of the nuclei of the central thalamus, all this governed and controlled by what the Esonians, the esotericists as I call them, i.e. the pineal, which is a total fraud. The true power of love is in the heart. As long as there is the head, you cannot live love. You can project it, you can idealize it, you can search for it, but any search takes you away from the present moment. So there, today, with a, do the research to get mushrooms, I don't know, or to go fishing, but not for who you are. And in addition, the proof is immediately provided by the fluidity of the unity, by the efficiency and joy, especially the smile on one's face. I have explained several times, and you will see it from everywhere, those who are written in their spiritual chimeras, there, or to accuse everyone of being the devil, they can't be happy, they can't smile, and less. All those who are locked in religions, in roles of imams, rabbis, priests, and everything, they are getting grayer and grayer, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it is not by chance that, today, they have arrived in this role, since in the end, it is the same result. But it is better to go through joy than suffering anyway, I don't know. Now free for them to suffer, that is what they have chosen, so it is their respectable choice, and you can only see it. There is no room for chance, all possible programs have been written. All possible scenarios have been written, and the worst thing is that we have experienced them all. Of course, as soon as you remain in discernment, that is their argument, you have to discern, oh la, there is good and evil, and they talk to you about unity. No, but wait, they're clowns. It's pathetic, it proves that they didn't experience anything. As I said for the Advent of Dainter, you have very famous authors who write about the Advent of Dainter. PFFFF, it's a complete pipe. Love and freedom are expressed through poetry, they are expressed through the words of Christian, they are expressed through the words of brothers and sisters who sing, dance, paint, they do not need alibis, They do not need to be recognized outside, which is the prerogative of spiritualists. They have a terrible need for gratitude. The poor, they suffer. And then now, as they are less and less recognized, they are dying. Laughs. Let them die, let's just love them. Sister. Many books on mindfulness, in tirades at the moment. Yes, and they will be overwhelmed by their religions, beliefs, denials or accusations of anything. They will suffer more and more. So until now, they could wear the mask of joy or make you believe that, through the manipulation of energies. That's all over now. All we live, both of us, are either projections or life. There will be fewer and fewer half measures in everything that will come before you. The more you are available for love, the more you are available for the moment, for embracing, as I said, the more you will discover transparency, grace, and the more life will fill you. No money, no possession, but you will feel this joy. It is inevitable, whatever the state of your body, your finances, your portfolio, your children or others. It is very difficult for mothers, for example, to accept that their children are not their children. Khalil Gibran had said it in a poetic way. The simulacrum tells you today by the Republic that your children are not your children and that they belong to the Republic. The purpose is the same. You are looking for happiness. Happiness is without you. As long as you believe that you can acquire happiness, you are not real. As long as I was a doctor in a professional success that I did not necessarily seek, but which happened on my own, well, that was not true. I was not free for love. It wasn't the right time either. But to be available for love, to be love, is to be available in the moment for everything that presents itself, which will give you the pretext and the opportunity to give yourself and to serve. And the more you give, as I said, the more you serve, without question, the more you receive. It's unstoppable. The way of spontaneity, the way of childhood, so dear to Teresy, that's it. The great difference compared to Teresa's time is that you do not need a savior, Christ is you. At the time, as Hildegard de Debenham explained, there had to be this kind of tension towards the light, but today you do not need tension, you do not need to meditate, you do not need vibration, you need to be present. It is the only lucidity. Everything that has served us today is an obstacle. There is no point in repressing sexuality, there is no point in repressing food, without that you are still in the will. Of course, there is a minimum understanding of how it works, but the more you accept that you can't change anything, the more you will see change. As long as you believe that you will change something in yourself, you will suffer. There is no other way to do it. Everything else is just subterfuge of consciousness, spirituality, energy, understanding, searching for meaning. Life has no meaning, it is everywhere, just as you are everywhere. It is only the perspective or point of view of the person who still believes that something is happening, by an effort, by an asceticism, by a practice, that keeps you on a theater stage as an actor and that prevents you from being that observer, that has become the eternal I. It is the moment when you realize the fusion between your personality, the ephemeral I, the name you bear, with the truth. Your noun is the truth, today, because you are the verb, but you cannot be the verb and lie first to yourself. The best proof, as I told you, is the smile on your lips, the brightness of your eyes, and it is not a laugh or a smile that is false, that is cheated, it is the truth. Even when you are in rebellion on certain occasions, you can only laugh at yourself, because the eternal I, the observer, despite everything, is there, and who sees you, yourselves, enter into the own game of your own mind, your own need for understanding, or your guilt. Stop playing games. You are nothing of guilt, you are nothing of understanding. And moreover on the allegorical or symbolic level, you call it as you wish, it is the myth of Adam and Eve. Eating the fruit of knowledge of good and evil drives you out of paradise. But there is no fault. We put her on Eve, on the woman, but she's no more at fault than the Acons. Besides, they're the same, at another time. Laughs. That's right, and it's us too at another time. We've already played everything, and we're all here too. But if you stay on a limited point of view of your character who is going through a story, who has to make an effort because he has sinned, because you have to find heaven or something else, you are still in scenarios that have no idea. But we've been so used to this. And our brains are built that way. Sister. According to Father Peter, he was a victim of his adherence to the obedience of the church, and he was persecuted by the church completely. Father Peter, we wanted to prove that the stigmata were false. It was horrible what he experienced, but he was bound by the law of obedience to the church, and humility, so that he saw completely all the abuses, and that he accepted to be a victim completely. It's changed a lot since then, it's incredible. That's why, yes, it's changed since then. The last one was Father Peter to be stigmatized. Now all the stigmatized appear outside the Catholic Church, fortunately. Because at the time, there was no choice. But the church was horrible with him, horrible, and he accepted everything, by law of obedience. That's a beautiful word. That's the obedience that Catholics sell us, or the submission to God that Islam preaches. Islam means the submissive to God, but, what the hell is this bullshit? That's right, but that's it. It was his time. Nevertheless, let them live what they have to live, because for them, it is the way to get there. And as for the elders, I explained it to you. Grandfather said it. They had to repair all the bullshit they projected, but their projections, which were bullshit, were to prepare, to set milestones. Christ set a milestone, Buddha set a milestone, the great beings, before the appearance of religions or spiritual movements, also set milestones. Buddha said, if you meet Buddha, kill him quickly. Until you kill the external master, you cannot be free. Brother. See, there are problems with the stigma. Some, they put them in the palm of their hands, others in the wrist above. So, but now they can't, because it tears everything apart. No. There, in the palm of your hand? The ones in the palm of your hand, of course. All the stigmas, I have nevertheless studied the stigmas of Father Peter. He hid them in his hand and, in Italy, you have the reincarnation of the little shepherd Ephema, there, Giorgio Bon Giovanni, he has the 5 wounds, he has the crown of Christ, he has the wound in his liver, the wounds on his hands and feet, they are always here. When I had the using of holy oil, it was really on the point of acupuncture, which is just above the palm of the hand, which is called the, if my memories are good, the 8th point of the meridian of the master of the heart, which is called in Chinese the Lao Gong, that is, the palate of the ancestors, as well as the feet. It doesn't matter whether they are, by the way, who cares, whether they're on their kidneys, or whether they're at their ankles. But the stigma that appears in the stigmatized person, it appears on this point, but remember that stigma, in the neuropsychiatric and neuroscientific sense, is a conversion hysteria, nothing more, nothing less, even if it was important to testify for son. Today, you don't need any stigma or anything. At the time, yes, the saints were subject to religions, moreover it ended very badly for those who did not submit to their religion from which they came, they all ended very badly in general. The truth cannot be told, it can only be lived. You can approach it, you can explain it, I try to explain it to you by all means, but that's not why you live it. It is just a kind of justification, if you can call it that will serve as a framework for you not to drown your mind, and to lead you towards acceptance, that's all. That's all that's happening with the advent of data, which is now starting to be well distributed in the West. You have a lot of simulators, they've only compiled, they're convinced they can live it. It's like the positioning of some brothers and sisters we know, or don't know, who tell you, that's it, I live the absolute, I live the disappearance, and who spend their time discerning good from evil. They don't see it. Whether you do good or do evil, you serve the binary matrix, and there is no way out in there. And of course, all these beings, of course, evil is always outside, it is never at home, they are people simply in the Jongjin sense, who have not looked in the right place, they have not gone down as we say in their depths, they have not found each other, and, of course, it is always the other who is responsible. They are unable to enter them. I am not even talking about entering their hearts, because everything you see on the outside, as grandfather said, is the one who says who is there. Everything you see on the outside is in you. If you see evil, if you see the devil, you're the devil, the deviser as they say. And there are no more devils than Achans, no more than Yaldegret, no more than Mary, no more than Christ. They are historical characters, they are real up to a certain level of experience, they disappear on their own beyond that. This is the whole problem of the ascended masters of the time, who had stopped in Shambhala and created an astral universe, all the teachings of Alice Bailey's soul, all the teachings of the Catholic Church, who forgot one thing, beyond the analysis of the soul, whatever the rays, the polarities, that I know, there is the spirit, and then, from spirit to truth, who has no use for the soul, the spirit, any world, any energy, any state of consciousness, or any vibration whatsoever. The only freedom, it's there, there's no other. Do you want to live it? Give yourself, do not stop giving, do not stop loving, no matter how you look at it. But above all, do not judge, see clearly, of course, and moreover I do not deprive myself to do so, but I do not condemn anyone by saying that. On the contrary, I love, and you will go through everything. Your illness, your lack, your suffering, your pain, and you will discover that, through this suffering as Antoine expressed it earlier, there is this joy. And that, of course, it creates a lap, he explained, in relation to the bike, in relation to walking, in addition to the mountains. But here too, resilience and acceptance are at stake. Because it is precisely what life has deprived you of that you will find freedom. Maybe today, if he could walk, he wouldn't be here, he would be riding his motorcycle through the mountains. When we see the bikers yesterday, there, on the roads there, what does it feel like, with their big bikes, there, oh, happiness, there is no radar. It's past. Yes, it passes, but nothing happens by chance, and I would even say that today, the more you reject something you find unfair, hateful, horrible, that's just what you needed, there's no other choice. It is not you who decide, and there is no external authority that has decided. It is not a god or a devil who has punished you. It is not even karma, it concerns the person. It is the intelligence of the light that is at work, and when you accept it, you can only live it. We're going to stop. I'd like to drive the last Ferrari too to see what it feels like. Laughs. But well, it's not a desire, you see, it's not even nostalgia, it's just a passing dream. And at that moment, you don't say, I miss it, no, I lived it, I lived it. That's what Priscilla was saying, all this I got it. Yes, and that's essential. And that's important. The resolution, it is there. I don't need it anymore today. But hey, a little bike ride up there would have been nice. Laughs. And I'm not ashamed to say it, but it's all going through. You laugh at yourself, not by making fun of yourself, but precisely, this laugh also allows you to reposition yourself in freedom. Sister, we are always dependent, since we must obey the intelligence of light, we do not leave the dependence. That's right, and you're the intelligence of light. Oh yes. Laughs. From the moment you are no longer in time, in the present moment, I told you, in the dynamics of all this alchemy that has been done in the heart, since the opening of the ascension crowns, the tri-unit, the fusion of the Marian channel in the hard Kekara, the rise of the wave of life. Finally, we will not repeat the whole scenario, the discovery of the resonance and rhythm of the heart of the three-beat waltz as I called it, the double terrace that sets in, this breathing that is done when the heart no longer starts to beat, but to breathe, when you start to perceive the small Kekara of the heart in the middle or the pressure on the heart, you have to go through the heart of the heart, so you are more and more present in the heart. And at some point, poof, that's what happens with fire, it no longer emanates from here. Even the 24 rays I told you about, the hexaedral tetractys that opens and shines, today, it no longer means anything, since fire is everywhere. And now I've been seeing it for several months. As soon as I identify a phenomenon and people experience it, and we talk about it, and we explain it, clap clap clap, I go back to something else. Laughs. Oh, yes, but it's systematic, and I can't do anything about it. It's written. I'm telling you, I'm just following what's written. I'm not inventing anything, I'm not creating anything, I'm just illustrating what I wrote myself, and for everyone it's the same. And there is no longer any trap. You are not likely to take yourself for who knows what, or to claim any ancestry on anyone, while obviously all the spiritual people, they are always telling you, oh la la, be careful, oh la la, the Allah. What the hell are they doing? Have they even once lived in their Agape? No, that's impossible, and they don't want to hear about it. But well, it is their path, and for them, it is not illusory, since they live it as real, and it is precisely this pseudo-error or positioning. Sister, I'm hungry. Are you hungry? We're going to eat. It is precisely this error of positioning that will also lead them to the consummation of love. No one can escape. Come on, we're stopping the recording, but I'm listening. Through LUC AYOUN. Les Transformations. English translation, LMF.